Welcome to Conversations with Toy, a blogcast tackling life one episode at a time. This is the time to air out life's craziest moments. This space is all about speaking about life's hang-ups and ways in which we can leave better than when we started. Topics are all about ways we can find space to be better in life, love, mental space, and health.
Happy Friday. I know I said that I wasn't going to be back until next week, which is June the 4th, is when we will start back up with season 4. But today I am here because we have a special blog. This is we'll call it a bonus blog, or podcast, I should say, blogcast. And with that being said, what are we talking about? We are going to talk about AAPI. Now, I know that we should pretty much all know what that means, but just in case, let's give you a refresher. AAPI is Asian American and Pacific Islanders. That is the actual definition of AAPI. And it's very imperative right now because, we have the new signed bill that just went into effect, that we are very clear that I know that May is usually AAPI, I guess I want to say recognition month or honorary month. It's, pretty much. However, we want to continue these conversations beyond these designated times. I think it's really interesting that we only hold on to certain things, like we talk about African American contributions in the month of February. I want us to step away from that because this is a everyday life. You can't change what you are and how you're born. So I want to make sure that we're just keeping these types of conversations clear. So today I have Linda Cool. I want to get it correct. And she is here because she has an amazing project that she's going to be working on. And it's going to be taking place this Sunday in New York. And it's a AAPI Solidarity Fundraiser. This is actually being done with Dancers Unlimited, which is where this is her actual dance company, and she's going to tell you all about that in today's episode. But this is going to be a part dance and part conversation. So we have several teachers that are going to be doing the dance portions of it. It is a sign up situation where you sign up, you get your tickets. The money and everything that they're raising, it's $10 per class, and that is going to be supporting Apex. So I honestly just want to thank Linda for her time and taking the time to sit down and just have a good discussion. I'm going to play back our interview. I hope that you enjoy it. We'll be back at the end just to have final comments. And again, I want to stress, this is a fundraiser that is going to be for an amazing cause. So I want you to go ahead, especially if you're in the New York area, you plan to be in the New York area this weekend. It's this Sunday. The registration, everything has to be registered, ahead of time. The last day to register is going to be tomorrow. That is going to be on Saturday, May the 29th. And I want you to go ahead and get your tickets. And again, if you feel like you're not able to attend and you want to donate, there's always the option of doing that as well. So let's get into it. Thank you, Linda. All about the event. What are the key things that, people are going to want to know about? And really, if we can start off with the whole, how did it all get put together? I know that this is a fundraiser for AAPI, and I just wanted to just have that conversation.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to share. I'm excited to talk to anyone and everybody about it. So my name is Linda Cool, and I'm the director of Dancers Unlimited, and we're one of the partners of this event. So it started really as a response to all the heightened media attention of violence against AAPI individuals, especially the women from Atlanta. And then I think, but even before the media report, right? Like even I myself with my son is mixed, Black and Asian.
Okay.
And last year was the year where he was 4 years old. Actually, when George Floyd happened, he was 3. not
Okay.
for it. So anyway, so I had to explain to him basically about racism on both ends, and because he was like, "What is Black Lives Matter? We live in downtown Brooklyn," so he hears all of the protests that's going on, and he's like, "Why are people saying this?" And for him, it just, for me, it was like, as a parent, how do you explain that? And then when we went to the supermarket, he saw people literally, it happened twice. Like people had told me to get back to China, to go back to where I'm from. And my son was with me, and he was just like, but we're not even from China.
Right. We're not from there. We're from up the street. Our house is right up the road. How
Yeah.
do you coincide that conversation with him being so young? Because I know I'm a mother of three and it was a hard conversation, but my kids are 12, 9, and 7. So they're about 5 seconds older, but
Right.
that's a hard conversation because
Yeah.
for me, I didn't expect to have that conversation so
So early.
early.
Yeah, same. And then, and I have friends who are, because I'm a dancer and I'm surrounded by other dancers, whether it's from different cultural groups. I am friends with like the West African dance group, the hip hop people. That's kind of like my origin story. I came up in the hip hop scene. I'm also a contemporary and ballet trained dancer. So in my company, we mix everything and we tell stories specifically about social injustice. And I'm from Hawaii, so we tell story. We try to like elevate stories and provide a platform to really highlight all the marginalized voices. So in Hawaii will be the Native Hawaiians. People have this colonized version. We're always so the colonized version of Waikiki, Hawaii being the paradise, and ignoring the fact that 80% of Native Hawaiians are make up the imprisonment rate. So 80% of people in prison in Hawaii are Native Hawaiians when Native Hawaiians don't even make up 10% of the population anymore. So it's the very similar story of the Black and Brown Indigenous people struggle. Last year it was difficult because I had to try to find a way to explain to my son. It was easy to dance about it and he can watch it. He went up to Mauna Kea, which is one of the sacred mountain, kind of like a standing rock, but for Hawaii. It's a
Right.
sacred mountain. They're trying to take over. They actually have already taken it over and they're just trying to desecrate it even more in the name of science. And
Yeah.
so my son has gone up with me. He has, being the presence of the Native Hawaiian elders and leaders. So he's been in the activism front. But for me to explain this to him in words, like how do I break this down? So I eventually I had to be straight up with them, and that's what my
Right.
friend suggested. Like, there's no sugarcoating because when he grows up, he's Black, Native American, and Asian. He's gonna have to understand what's going on. So
There's a lot of things that
yeah,
he makes up and comprised of so many different elements. So he
yeah.
has to be in tune to that.
Yeah, so I think the best thing I can give him is just honesty, so I can prepare him for anything that may come his way. Yeah, so this has been this workshop and the solidarity workshop has been an idea, and then the idea is like, yeah, we're celebrating AAPA Heritage Month. We specifically decided to do it at the end of the month because we don't want the conversation of solidarity, to stop at the end of the month.
Right.
One of the questions, because I've been getting interviewed, I always get interviewed a lot in the month of May because everyone's like, oh, this is an AAPI individual. That's great. Let's interview her. And for me, I'm always like, it's almost like, can we broaden of the conversation, right? Like,
Right.
and this is a human rights issue. It's not just API, not just Black. It's not just like, yes, every group has our own very unique struggles. But even within the AAPI group, I'm not gonna group my struggle together with a Native Hawaiian struggle. It's
Right.
totally different. So so that's the intention of this workshop is like, hey, let's just come together. That's what solidarity is, right? Come together so we can at least begin with honesty in the same space,
Mhm.
um, and making ourselves available for the conversations that need to happen.
Now the workshop what's the age or groups of the people that are involved? Like, is it different various ages? Like, how does that break down?
So mostly I think we say it's high school and adults. So right
Okay.
now, looking at a registration list, mostly is like it's young adults
Okay.
attending. Yeah. And then Yeah, we also, but the community discussion, so we're ending the day with the community discussion and
Mhm.
Apex, which is the beneficiary of this event. So Apex is they are a nonprofit New York-based organization. They provide possibilities for immigrant, like Asian immigrant youth, and also low-income families. So some of their youth members are actually coming to the discussion to just share with us like what they've been working on and what they went through this year, as students in their high school and the discrimination and what they're doing through their programs to kind of find their own voices, um, and to be anti-racist, right? And then the next step is for us to all figure out like, okay, what do we do? What does solidarity look like? What does anti-racism look like? Together, and also for the individual ethnic groups. Um, yeah, so we have dancing, which is light and fun, and then it's a great.
Dancing always brings a lot of people together, and it's easier to tell a
Exactly.
story through dance than it is just to have people talking to. So I do recognize that.
Yeah, I think the arts is always so powerful, like it touches people's heart without having to kind of like say out loud. But the discussion for us is also important as well, because it's us practicing using our voices, and having that platform for marginalized voices to be heard, even if it's just, at one workshop, 1 hour. But at least that's a space where, you know people can come together and we can have honest discussions. It's very different from, for me, I know a lot of corporations, they have diversity and inclusion.
Mm.
um, right, we can go into
I had to
this.
roll my eyes. So in case somebody's listening, after I put this all together, like I'm rolling my eyes because it's
Yeah,
interesting how we have these diversity inclusions, and their birth, I guess in general, their purpose is supposed to be understanding, but they're birthed from a place of not because we truly want to learn from other people, it's or we want to have acceptance. It's more or less like I don't want to be the one the company doesn't have it, because then if I don't have it, then it becomes a bigger issue.
it
It's
becomes,
more
yeah, it's
it's a money, it's like a I don't want to lose I don't want to lose profits.
yeah. And then I've even, like, this can be on or off the record, but like this is interesting because even I'm a nonprofit. So DU, we're a nonprofit, and we've been engaging a lot of even foundation talks with foundations and just the philanthropy talk, right? And my husband
Mhm.
works for a corporation who has a huge philanthropy department, and he's kind of like in charge of putting events together, and he's like the diversity inclusion guy that they go to on like, he's not an official guy.
Right, but he's just like the
Almost like
unanswered person.
they always like, basically they always go to him like for a black opinion. And I
My
was like,
husband has that same
hey,
issue.
no, I have to be the black spokesperson.
Yeah, because he's like, I can't speak for everybody. I can only speak from my
Exactly.
experience. So from my experience, this is what I would see. But yeah, it gets it all the time.
Yeah, so it's very interesting. So, but even that conversation is like, oh, now it's like, because everyone, even the foundations, they realize, because 90% of the people in the foundation, especially decision makers, they are white is and male. So they want to
Mhm.
diversify, and they want to diversify who they give money to, right? Which is great. But at the same time, now they're making it a requirement for nonprofits to have a DNI division. So it
Right.
became, like you say, it's a money thing. And it, to me, it's like, how genuine is it when you're just doing it? Are you doing it because you really see the need to do
I
it?
mean,
Or
when you think about too, when you saw everybody black out their social media pages,
yeah,
the same companies that blacked out their social media pages a year ago don't exactly follow suit with what that blacking out of the social media meant.
yeah,
It's not just putting out this black box on your Instagram. It's what are you doing to make sure that people like me and people like you are getting paid fairly? They're being compensated the way that a white male, because that's really what it boils down to. There's a lot of white male that are able to move differently
right.
than people of color. And what about that? So that's kind of what I think about
Yeah, and then that's
taking it
really the
off. Yeah.
conversation that no one really wants to honestly have, and then it comes with fragility. It comes with just that it's easy to celebrate diversity and inclusion, but you cannot. basically undo racism without going further. And then for us, this what's what this workshop is for. Like, yes, we can come together and dance, we celebrate, we raise funds for a wonderful organization that support immigrant youth and low income families. It's amazing. But the last component of the day is really a discussion where we all sit down and we let's talk it out. Like, what is it that we can do together to truly make a difference? So it's more than just posting a black block, black box, and more than just like tagging AAPI, Stop Asian Hate. Like, we can do all kind of stuff on social media, but structurally and institutionally, what are we really doing to make a difference so we're really trying to create equity, right? And to elevate each other's voices. So that's the intention of this workshop. And when we put a workshop together, we did a call for volunteer teachers.
Okay.
And we didn't have an intention where like originally we're like, well, we're not gonna just try to limit the teachers to like AAPI. We're not gonna try to do that. I feel like everyone should come together. But then it just so happens like when the schedule worked out, because everyone has such a busy schedule, everyone turned out to be AAPI. So the four teachers that we're featuring, they're AAPI, they're AAPI decent, which is
Okay.
okay, it works out. So I think, and that also will direct and maybe shift the discussion a little differently so we can get more perspective on, performers and teaching artists like who have the API background and what are their experiences like.
And I was just about to say that was my next question about AAPI dancers, because I'll just say this. It's like, okay, the times that I have seen like AAPI dancers online, and I'm not saying that it's limited, because it's not, but I'll see things like cultural appropriation, like dancing or certain other ways only done by a certain style. And if you try to cross over to whatever, because to me, I grew up in a musical home. My mom was a dancer. So, her with dancing, it was just like dancing is dancing, it's movement, and anybody can do it. But we get into this whole fine tune of, well, only certain people can do certain types of dance, especially when it comes to like crossing over to like hip hop or anything urban or anything like that. So what is your thoughts on that? Just because I do know that it has been a talk that has been hammering out these last couple of years and these last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think so. Coming from a hip hop background, and my teachers, they are like kind of like the pioneers of hip hop, so including Mop Top, Dance Fusion. So they made sure I learned the history,
Okay.
like why hip hop was born, who created it. Really, there's no one person. It's a community response to the oppression that was happening, and that's why hip hop is so universal now. It's a global movement, right? And I think the conversation within the hip hop community is just always what happens when a let's just say a black art form is commercialized. So the
Right.
same thing happened with jazz, right? So Lindy Hop in Harlem looks very different from the Lindy Hop that's being taught in studios today. The people who are performing Lindy Hop, from Whitey's Lindy Hop to now, they look very different. So there's
Right.
a whitewashing of things. And as an Asian American, I didn't learn hip hop on the streets. I didn't grow up in like, I didn't grow up in New York. I grew up in Hawaii. So yeah, I was exposed to hip hop, but I started with hip hop choreography in the studio. So the hip hop I experienced was already kind of like, it was not the essence. It was not
Right.
from the original people. So I had to relearn and re-educate myself when I came to New York to really learn about what's the essence of hip hop, the history, the people, the movement, because that wasn't taught to me in the dance studios. So
And
what
it's not going to. And it's like, unless
exactly,
you're in an area like a New York or Philadelphia or any type of a urban city, really, you're
yeah,
not going to get that, because like you said, it looks very different. It looks very
yeah,
robotic. It's not as fluid as it would
very
be
different, exactly, and it's
if
not
you're
as
in the
natural.
streets.
The freestyle element of hip hop, because hip hop is an expression of yourself. So the freestyle element, most of the time, it's taken out of the studios, right? Became a choreography, became competition. Um, and then and for me, it's like, yeah, people can do what they want to, but it's important to pay respect and honor the lineage of hip hop, where hip hop came from, right? And then it didn't just start in the 70s. Like hip hop
Right.
was a product of jazz, of disco, and even going back, right? Like, so my teacher for me is like, even second line, look at second line, you know, in New Orleans, right? Second line. And then you look at um the ritual circles, the prayer circles. You look at, and you go back to, basically you go back to West Africa. So that's where hip hop came from. And for to them, it's like, if you want to study hip hop, go take a West African class. That's
Right.
how you study hip hop. You study the history. So for me, as Asian American, I think our job is to understand that we are a visitor. We're being invited into this culture. And knowing that, yes, we can enjoy the culture. Hip hop is not exclusive for me. Like, it's very inviting. That's why it's all over the world.
Right.
But it's important to understand where it came from, and pay, you know, homage and honor those people and honor the communities that created hip hop. And for as an Asian American performer, is very interesting because I've been on the commercial side of things when I was in my early 20s, and now I'm pushing 40s. I have my own dance company. Um, as a commercial dancer, it was very interesting because every time I booked a job, it was almost always because I was Asian.
Because they needed someone to represent the Asian community in
Right.
that in that in
And
that
then they're not scared to say it. They're like, we need an Asian girl, that one. And sometimes, you know, you go to audition calls, they line you up before you even dance. They're like, you see, okay, this black girl, white girl, Latina, Asian, boom, you guys go. You guys go to the second round. So it wasn't even about skills anymore. It's more, and then that makes me, I don't know how that
aesthetics.
feel as a, yeah, to me, I was like, I don't know how I feel as a person. Like, great, I'm booking this gig, but I'm like, man, all my years of hard work and training.
It comes down to my complexion. It comes down to my ethnicity. It comes down to who I can do, what I can do for them, because they want to make sure that they have that appearance of, we're not whitewashing things. We're bringing in people of color, and we're bringing in a couple extra people, so we're good. Like, and you know what? And that happens everywhere. Like, unfortunately, it happens in corporate. It happens. I don't even know any field that it doesn't happen. It's very
Yeah,
irritating.
exactly. And then now, even as a company, right? And people are like, why aren't you creating more Asian American stories? And for me, I'm like, I'm not an Asian American dance company though.
Right.
You know, like, our board of advisors are super diverse. You know, we basically kind of have like a rainbow array of people in on our board. Our
Right.
dance company members are black and brown, and we have like maybe two like Europeans, from Greece and also Spain. Um, and then our other company, we're based in New York and Honolulu. So in Honolulu, we have a huge Native Hawaiian influence. So I was like, I cannot just make my company an Asian American company because I'm Asian American. And even that, right? There is so much disconnect through the process of trying to assimilate. There's so much that I'm discovering now, like, that's been disconnected
Right.
from my culture when my family came over here. So I'm still trying to do that Asian American research because when I went to school, there was no Asian American studies. We
Right.
had like one Asian American class in my school. So
Yeah, it's crazy because it's weird because I feel like even with like Asian American studies, we didn't study that in I know I didn't study it in high school. I didn't really I had to take an actual African American studies class. It wasn't something that was just a general conversation. I felt like it should have just been a general conversation, but it wasn't. It was, if you would like to take this class, then this is where we're discussing this at. But it wasn't something that was offered widespread. So we're not introduced to other cultures at an early age, and then we're expected to then figure this out later on. And I feel like that definitely needs to be changed, and stop having it like you said at the very beginning, like, the month of February, we'll start talking about African American things because we're in the month of February. Now we're in the month of May, so now we can start talking about Asian Americans. Like, this is a everyday, year round. This is not something that we do just to honor this one time a month to make ourselves feel like we're doing something.
yeah, I think because the greater structure of thing or infrastructure of thing, right? Like, things are very, it's white supremacy. Everything is very Eurocentric. Going back to dancing, I wanted to get like a BFA. I ended up not getting it. I had a bit. I went to business instead, and I just did a bunch of like dance extracurricular classes. But all the BFA programs, basically, the first round of audition is always ballet.
Mm-hmm.
So meaning you can dance hip hop your whole life. You can be like the dopest freestyler, right? And you can do head spins for days, but if you don't pass that first round of ballet, you get
You're not getting to the other part where they can see where you're
right.
right.
Right. And even most of the higher education dance programs today, even though there has been a lot of like diversity and inclusion conversations happening, but the changes are happening very, very slowly. Right. So the the curriculum mostly is very modern and ballet centered. And
Right.
everything else are added on, like you said, like electives, only if you want to explore more. But to me, I was like, if you're really thinking about American dance, American music, because you can't talk about dance without music, right? You cannot ignore African American contributions. You cannot talk about modern dance without going into African dance, because
Right.
all the contraction and release, that's from African dance. So it's not from ballet. So for me, I was like, so just that. So again, like going back to our event this Monday, that's where the discussion is going to be. It's, even though it's an AAPI fundraiser, the discussion itself is solidarity, because I think the common theme here is white supremacy, right? So what can we do in our position? And I'm in the position of being a director of a dance company, and other people have their other positions. What can we do really um, to undo that existing structure that is holding us back from honest conversations and real change? Because the real, like, we've this whole year we've had so much conversation,
Right.
but I'm like, where's the real change, you
Right.
know?
So now after we talk, what we gonna do?
Yeah, exactly. We've been talking about it for honestly more than a year, right? And I think if you're a BIPOC person, like, you've been talking about it probably your whole life. So like, so when is that real change happening? And if you don't see in other organizations, what can I do in my organization that actually will implement the change effectively?
What is your takeaway when people have left? They've participated, they've taken the classes, they've done the dances, they've had this conversation at the end. What is the takeaway that you want people to literally leave with, and they have to be empowered? Like, what do you want them to be able to do?
So one of the end goal for the discussion, it really is actionable plans, to come up with a plan together as a community. Whether it might just be the dance community, right? So what does it look like for a more equitable stage? What does it look like for, for us to put all dance styles on equal platforms? So it's not always ballet first and everything else as electives, right?
Right.
And what are we doing? Maybe we can learn from each other, because these organizations were all internally doing something. Peridance, for example, one of our partners, they're sponsoring their staff and space on Sunday. Um, they they basically have included, they really diversified their teaching staff this year. So they're one of the organization that doesn't just talk. They actually have truly
Right.
diverse, right. They've always diversified their class offering. They also they provide a home for Joniba dance, African drum and dance classes.
Right.
They also recently just partnered with some of the hip hop dance pioneers, so Sekou Haru and Buddha Stretch. So Buddha Stretch was the choreographer for Michael Jackson's "Remember the Time." That video,
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah. So they both been in the industry for a long time. So last year they launched a program called Dancestry. So it's dance ancestries, specifically exploring what we just talked about, right? Like, where is hip hop from? What is the dance history of these different dance styles that we're seeing? Um, so now Perry Dance is sponsoring this program. So providing a space, providing funding, which is amazing. So one of those, so I think the discussion, the takeaway really is to help us look at what each other's doing, what's really working, like, and acknowledging the work that's being done, and how else can we come together to really support each other and to elevate voices, and to be really honest with ourselves, to look at within, because I feel like, because we all kind of grew up in this racist structure, we all have internalized racism, right? Of how things should work, what
Right.
they should look like. So what are some of these walls and boundaries that we can take down within our own work, so that we can really talk about, like, anti-racism and creating equity?
Well, that sounds like good. That sounds good to me. I'm definitely going to make sure that I do my part to post it so that people are aware, because I have, people all over the place, and I want them to know that um that you're going to be doing this on Sunday. Is it still available for people to sign up?
Yeah, the last day to register will be tomorrow. So because Peridance, they require all the registration to be turned in before the event.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it is everyone must mask while there. I did see that, and that's great. And like I said, you said tomorrow's the last registration, so I will definitely emphasize that. Is there anything else that you want me to make sure that we all understand? We're all on the same page?
Yeah, I think if anything, just definitely, we encourage everyone to come through, take a class. We have what class we have? We have tapping, we have tap, we have Japanese folk dance and a popping class, and also a commercial choreography class. So a wide range of classes that we can explore, and definitely stay for the conversation. Are you in New York yourself or in New
I'm in
York?
Philly. Yeah.
Okay. So if you're free, let me know. We would love to have you, in the class or a discussion. Yeah, just let me know, and I'll just give you a comp tickets. That'll be
Okay. Well, I definitely appreciate that. And I can't wait to just hopefully I mean, if I'm not there, I hope to hear or see, what the outcome of that, was. And maybe what I could do too is circle back and maybe just have like a follow up with you so we can just see like how everything went and like highlight some of the things that were discussed. Because again, we need to have these conversations a lot more than just this one time a month. So I would love to be able to do that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it'll be great to just continue that conversation, and checking in and hold each other accountable. Like 6 months from now, like maybe you can check in, like, hey, Linda, are you being accountable? Like, what are
Right.
you
Like, what y'all
doing?
doing over there?
Uh, I think that's all we need, because it's so much easier sometimes to fall back to what's been established. But then it's like but we got to do the hard work.
Thank you as always for joining me, and I know that even in the deepest or joyful conversations, that there's something we can learn and apply. Until next time, I hope that you are doing better. If not, we will be back to talk some more and handle it. Peace to you and yours. Stay grounded.